Have you ever pondered what occurs when you just leave a person's life? I'm not discussing taking a small step back. I imply utterly disappearing, not sending any texts, phones without contact. What would they actually do? Feel in the modern world while you're gone, where individuals believe they can disregard others. Let's reverse the script vanishes, and I guarantee that welcome to the world that will collapse. The most significant video you will view today, whether you've ever been romantically involved or a circumstance in which someone has become too at ease with handling you as in choice, this video is for you. Discussing a potent idea today, how they actually feel when you just disappear from their lives. We'll talk about 10 strong emotional phases that they will proceed when you vanish, and let me to inform you that after watching this video, you'll comprehend why, occasionally, the greatest walking is a strong thing you can do. If you're ready, walk away and never turn around. To find your value if you're prepared, to cause them to miss you more than ever. Leave a remark below saying, I'm completed as a choice since, in the end, you will never be one again because of this. Watch through to the end, since there's an additional 10th stage of feeling. They'll sense something you'd rather not miss. If you're prepared to alter the watch this to see how they see you forever. Video through to the very finish. So let's get began as the top song. The sting of this is where it all starts. Rejection. They didn't anticipate your disappearance. Actually, you were constantly on their mind, intending to attend. You were the one who worked hard, the one who made the plans. The person who gave you concern was the someone they could trust up to. You weren't when you vanish. It's as though striking them with an invisible brick approaching. It's likely that you've heard the saying, when something is gone, you never know what you have. That is precisely what occurs when you disappear. Let me to clarify, when you get out of their life, it's not necessary. It's only about the physical absence, about removing all that you symbolized, the consolation and approval, the constant accessibility. They feel turned away, but it's not a dismissal at the surface level, but rather a intensely personal sting, since they realize for the first time you people are not under their influence. Dislike to acknowledge it, but when they know that there would always be someone around them, begin to handle them as a safety net. You stop being a priority and start becoming an alternative when you grab that safety net and disappear out from beneath them, and that's when panic strikes. It feels liberating. They believed they could take you if you fell, taken for granted, and then abruptly abandoned, wondering how I allowed this to occur. How did I lose? Manage the pain of rejection strikes very challenging when you've been being emotionally accessible. They took your love and your unavoidable presence. They thought you would be there no matter what. Perhaps they even considered what they did. They were being helpful to you by maintaining you around, which they believe is the true irony. Although they're offering you crumbs, you have been in possession of the A partnership. Here's what you must comprehend if you wish to make them experience the pain of being rejected by you. Cannot warn them, so don't tell. Don't give them an indication that you're leaving. Ultimatum, and don't ever request their focus. Simply leave them alone when you vanish without a reason. Smacks more forcefully since they didn't see it. Approaching, it compels them to consider their behavior, but it also informs them of declaring unequivocally that you're done being disrespectful. Don't turn around after you go. Will experience the rejection and have faith in me. It will affect them in ways that never anticipated the individual they believed. They were in charge of the person who always remained, despite everything that has just departed the building, to allow them to handle the void of missing is the second aftermath. This is when things start to get interesting. Once the pain of rejection has subsided, they begin to experience new emotions. Void they didn't anticipate missing. You did, and they most likely made up their minds that they wouldn't. I wouldn't mind if you departed, and if they do, I will. They intended to simply move on, but what occurs when you truly vanish, they begin to sense the emptiness. And it's not only any empty space, is the type of nothingness that GSS as they go about their daily lives acting in the same manner as they have always completed. Yet something is lacking. They then recognize you as the someone who gave their life purpose. You provided the warmth, the vitality, the stability of emotions, and now, without you, you notice that everything feels bland when you are taken for granted by someone. Believe that you are merely a member of the background. They believe the dynamic between you two is interchangeable. However, nobody else brings this fact. Because of what you cause to their lives, they may try to find someone else to fill the vacuum. However, it's always different when you bring a special energy that changed their life simpler, more pleasurable, and more bridging the gap becomes more significant with. Perhaps they believed that every day they could divert their attention with their pals or someone new. They believed they could concentrate on their work or engage in hobbies in order to obtain above you, yet that gap remains. Guess what? They are reminded of what they have lost. It is always present and eats away at them since they never imagined they'd. This is the irony of how I feel about you. When they had, they didn't show you gratitude. They believed they could perform better, or perhaps they assumed you would always be about. Yet as soon as you depart, everything shifts, and they begin to disappear. The minor details, the discussions, the way you made them laugh, realized that it's the little things every day, moments that they suddenly long for, but you are no longer there to supply them. Make sure you do it when you vanish. In a manner that prevents them from on social media, you block them. Take their number off and make it. They can't just casually check up. The more they understand that they can't access you, the more profoundly that emptiness grows. Each time they consider you and make an effort to reach out and discover no evidence of you. Let them sit there as the void grows, void, and keep in mind that people don't value their possessions until they're let them miss you and experience the absence. The more they sense the emptiness of more, they will begin to comprehend what you added number 3 into their lives. Overpowering. By now, they're deeply immersed in their inquiry, the emptiness, and they become desperate. When curiosity takes over, it becomes overwhelming. The main query they are currently considering is, who are they? Where are they? And what are they doing? Are they with whom they have developed an obsession? Being aware of your life's events since they are no longer able to access. Nothing is more mysterious than you, more unnerving than being unaware of what's happening with a person who used to be so close in the social media era at this point is they will be checking with much more intensity. Your Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and every platform simply in order to see what you're doing it. But here's the worst part. They're not receiving anything from you. Gone dark with no postings, news, or updates nothing, which makes them insane. Why? Because people are afraid of the unknown. As soon as you disappear, their thoughts begin, I'm bursting with inquiries about this. Where they start to feel insecure, begin to question if you've moved on or not. Are they better when they see someone else? Off without my presence, they are unable to cope. Being aware, therefore, they get obsessed with trying. This is the time when they might look for answers, even try to get in touch with mutual pals. They will inquire to learn more about you. Queries, but I'll be too proud to acknowledge them. They care. It's a very depressing sight. Someone who believed they didn't require your help now making a special effort to determine. The truth about what you're doing is curiosity, is a strong feeling that occurs when someone unable to obtain the responses they desire there. The imagination fills in the blanks, so they will begin seeing you with another person wishing you were more content and joyful without them. And that idea saps day by day. It shifts from taking curiosity and turning it into an obsession. The best aspect is that the less people understand, the more they're curious about you becoming the one thing they can't get off their mind. To pique their interest, you must turn. Become a ghost and abandon the grid. Please refrain from posting anything that could give them hints about your life. Let them stew on their own wonder, ideas attempting to determine what's occurring with you each time they choose up their phone to see how you're doing and discover nothing. But it will bring them nearer the edge. You currently have the authority, and there, your greatest strength is your curiosity, don't you? Answer them, then keep quiet. Number 4, deep self-analysis, and we're about to enter hazardous area for them, which is the self-reflection starts at this point. In and after a few days, it's neither attractive or even weeks of uncertainty about your whereabouts and your actions. They eventually turn. They begin by introspecting and asking themselves the difficult questions. Was I too aloof? Did I screw up or push them away because I was too cold? This is where regret begins to seep in. And this is a bitter pill to take. The truth that people prefer not to acknowledge, it's human for them to make mistakes. Nature, but when you're gone, you're forcing them to directly address those errors without you being present to comfort them or smooth things out. They're forced to confront their own actions, and it's not enjoyable experience that they begin to rewatch each discussion and questioning in their minds whether there was anything they could have done, distinct. They recall the times they disregarded, the times dismissed your texts, your emotions, and the moments that created you feel as though you were a last-minute addition. And it deeply affects them, since I am aware that they were doing well. Yet they now take it for granted, confined to their own ideas, and those thoughts are cruel at this point. Really potent since it's internally, they are no longer able to blame you. You're not present to quarrel or to justify them, the sole individual. They can hold themselves accountable, and that's a difficult pill to accept. As time passes, self-reflection becomes more profound, and the greater their reflection, the more they acknowledge the extent to which they have ruined the A's. Their remorse increases. They begin to wish they might go back in time and do action alternatively, but it's too late. Do not contact me at this time. Avoid attempting to justify your departure or help them see the mistake of their methods that allow them to solve it independently. Self-analysis is most effective when it occurs within the longer they. The more they think, the more they'll acknowledge that they were the cause of went wrong, allowing them to live with their shame. It's an important lesson that they must discover, the fifth lesson, the desire to seek now that they've had enough time, you. Something changes when you reflect on yourself. They move from asking questions to themselves to desire your return. The you used to be the one, but now the roles have changed. Who worked tirelessly, who were concerned, who chased, but now it's their turn to feel the need. To chase you becomes too much for them to handle. I'm thinking about you all the time. I can't stop wanting to reach out. Questioning whether it's too late to make. If all goes well, they'll begin sending them. I've been considering your texts. They will appreciate your previous Instagram postings, perhaps even leave a remark on anything to observe. They may issue a delayed message if you reply. After a few drinks, a night message hoping, here's the way to revive what was lost, that they are currently pursuing you. They have changed from considering you a given to wishing you back with all my heart. And this is where you have complete control, and the want to is determined to get you. But you don't need to reply, but you shouldn't allow. Let them experience the desperation. I wonder whether you've moved on. The more they'll understand that they are no longer in charge of the issue. They are no longer in control, and it makes them insane when they first don't give up when you're pursuing react when the electricity returns to them. You've put in too much effort to get back your value, and this is not the moment to provide that manner. Allow people to follow you, but don't give them credit for their efforts. Quiet is your greatest instrument here, allowing them to sense the annoyance at wanting something they. Number 6 in the contest is no longer possible. Between relief and remorse at the beginning evaporate. They may experience a fleeting feeling of that alleviation, that first sensation of, at last, they tell themselves, freedom, no longer need to cope with them, and perhaps they even enjoy it. But the problem with that so-called, it feels like freedom is an illusion. Initially thrilling, but it's only surface level, and they occasionally go out and hang around with several times. Their buddies swipe right, and they briefly believe that everything will be all right. But as soon as they're sitting by themselves in their peaceful flat, when browsing their phone, which is when remorse begins to seep in, they start to understand that freedom without. In reality, you are a void that those they believed could take your place are merely superficial diversions. It's such as consuming salt water when you're drinking. It seems like a remedy for thirst. However, it simply causes them to become more dehydrated, desperate, and more regrettable. And in the modern world, of persons who engage in casual dating and hookups, frequently believe that going on will be as simple as meeting a new person, yet it's not. They soon discover that you can't swap out the person who made you feel emotionally stability and an authentic relationship with a short-term solution or a pointless liaison, and that's when the realization hits. Let them lie flat on their back. Enjoy this freedom and don't hurry to return. When they begin to feel remorse, let them take a seat in that vacant area they. It would be wonderful to think of the initial sense of relaxation they experience is fleeting, but they will be haunted by your absence. They didn't anticipate that number 7 would wish to play the game after having regrets sinks in. They become anxious and wish to manage the circumstance, but they don't understand how. So what do they attempt to play games? They begin to appear aloof, intentionally attempting to incite your jealousy, sharing images of others creating. They appear content without you. Perhaps they make a mysterious status update regarding leaving or a selfie attempting a bit too difficult. It's all one big try to entice you back in so that I'm curious about their activities. But here's the anything you've stopped playing, outgrown the games, that you've outgrown that immature conduct, and you don't even take note of their petty efforts to elicit a response from people based on their thoughts that deceit by jealousy, or you will pursue if you play hard to get. Following them, but what occurs if you've ceased pursuing when you were exhausted? Of the game, they'll give it their all. Your subtle digs are passive-aggressive. Comments on too dramatic social media posts, yet none of it is effective since you're not paying enough attention to them. They want you to stop participating in their juvenile methods, and that, my friend, is what makes them utterly insane. When they are no longer able to elicit a response from you, lose all control over them. They're left thrashing around and grabbing for something. They are no longer able to control, don't interact with the cryptic hosts. Respond solely to the images of their game. Functions if you play as soon as you stop. When they answer, they realize they no longer have control over your number. 8. The crushing force of quietness is one of the most strong instruments that you can utilize when you disappear. The lack of your words, your presence and texts make a greater impression. Compared to what you could say, it departs, leaving them with just their own ideas, and this is where things become difficult for them. Because the quiet is so oppressive, so unpleasant, they begin to wonder everything they begin to recall. They consistently disregarded your calls. They were too busy all the time to respond to your messages, and they would now will stop at nothing to hear from you, agonizing for someone accustomed to possessing authority that people anticipate you achieving out. They anticipate you asking what's wrong or implore someone to explain. But what occurs when you're unaware of what they must sit there as you vanish, wondering whether they've lost in the silence? They can't comprehend you for good. Each minute without you saying anything seems like a year, and the more time that passes, as their anxiety levels rise, we live in a world where texts are used for ongoing communication, instant call notifications, satisfaction that everyone anticipates, and prompt reaction when you don't give them the spiral they're accustomed to. The rear of a relationship's cacophony, even the disagreements. Yet there was only stillness. Silence is deafening, so be quiet. Don't break your power, and don't give an explanation. You allowed them to feel the burden of their own behavior by means of the lack of your remarks. They'll quickly understand that it's more worse to lose access to you than you may have had a variety of arguments. The dread that drives them to CW now, when I fall back, this is where it all begins. Crashes down in terror. This is the portion they didn't anticipate occurring, the section that they are truly afraid of. For a long time, they were losing you. They assumed you would always be at ease. They took your presence there for given the impression that you were the one who'd stay put no matter what. But right now, they're afraid now that you're gone. More than anything else, terror strikes them. They begin to consider what might happen if I lose. What if they've moved on and left them for good? To another person, the notion that you are with a new person takes up their thoughts. They will imagine you giggling with making memories with someone else, another person, and the idea of it makes they're so sick that they are no longer concerned about their pride. All they can do now is play it cool or have an ego. Consider if this will get you back. They do things they vowed to do out of fear. They'll reach out, but they'd never do. They'll say they're sorry, and perhaps they send lengthy texts outlining their didn't value you previously, but now, perhaps they understand how much you meant. They unexpectedly knock on your door. Wishing for another chance at anything they do, it is driven by a single factor, the overpowering worry that you've been lost forever, but by this point, the truth. They sense that you're already afraid. You've already left and moved on, discovered your independence and strength, and you no longer require them. Although fear exists, it's too late when they return slowly, and don't give them a second opportunity simply because they're fearful of exposing children to the repercussions of you've already moved on from their behavior. They must understand that you're not a choice that will be assumed if congratulations for getting this far. 99% of people are already behind you, out there, and you have demonstrated that you are a someone who seeks depth and is truly somber. Number 10, knowledge and insight. Awareness of emotional independence is where it all begins, completes the circle of the understanding of your personal feelings. When you lose your independence, you're not simply leaving them, you're moving in the direction of your own freedom, own tranquility, your own emotional clarity. Observe that in a lot of relationships, we get so preoccupied with making the other individual joyfully enhancing our value that we overlook. We forget about our own needs, possess the ability to decide to leave, expect more for ourselves. But when you've once disappeared after taking back your area, you begin to clearly realize what you don't need their confirmation that you are no longer care about their thoughts, feelings, or what people desire. You've come to understand that they don't have to be happy, and that's the strongest thing you can. This is your emotional experience, independence, and the best part comes after. They understand that they experience it as well. You've changed from who you were before. I knew you were stronger and more intelligent today. Assured they'll be able to tell you've outgrown those you no longer require. For them to feel whole, here's where the tables have permanently shifted, and they're trapped in the same routines. Yet, you've changed and liberated yourself from the validation round, and now their opinion is not as important as your feelings. Be independent and avoid reverting to the past. Methods don't provide them with the fulfillment of believing they still have authority over your contentment. You've transcended that, and your greatest victory is that.